All right, the Gunner job. Gunner jobs can be acquired through contacts, promoted. You can also find them on any ship, any place that has population and a military rating greater than 4. These guys primarily provide gunnery. They also do give some ship ops. Gunners are not super favored in the meta right now, but you do start with some, and they help a lot early game as you have lots of weapons on your ships, generally more than you want to keep. If you're having a ship with just tons of weapons installed, you're going to need some gunners or maybe pirates perhaps to fill in. Gunners do have a few unique perks that can make them pretty nice. They're very easy to acquire, but often I find myself replacing all but 1 or 2 of these by end game with other jobs. Anyway, let's move on. Raking Fire, ship combat talent. At the end of a turn where you hit them and use this talent, they take 20% shield loss and 10% armor loss at these 3 positions. This will cause them to take a lot more crew and component damage due to the shielding loss, but the decreased armor as well is going to hurt their hull. I don't like Raking Fire very much as it will too rapidly destroy the foe. But if you and your foe are locked in a vice grip against each other, and you're in close range and you're both duking it out, you might need to just destroy their hull before you get destroyed, in which case Raking Fire would make some sense. But that's kind of a clutch emergency situation. All right, targeting lock. This is a weaker version of a talent that the bounty hunter has. However, gunners are easier to come across. It lowers their defense by 10% and chops off 20 escaped for the next 3 turns. You have to be in one of these 3 positions, and you have to hit them with weapons in order for it to go off. This debuff will apply before they roll their escape, so it takes effect immediately, effectively, except for the defense portion, which won't matter until the following turn when you attack again. This is good for keeping them from a foe from escaping, but generally you'll see foes do this against you when you're trying to escape more than the other way around. Loot Armory is nice talent. After a combat, you can repair weapon components by a certain amount, 10% plus gunnery skill. If you have lots of guns and they're routinely getting damaged, this is a good talent to click first, and then do the more general purpose post repair talents. Signature homing is not one that I use a lot. If you're up close and you can't hit your foe, you can lower their defense. However, in order to lower their defense, you have to hit the foe. So almost the premise of the talent defeats the talent itself, as you don't need to lower their defense much unless you can't hit them. And if you can't hit them, you can't use this talent. If you're worried about them putting on a defense buff and thus being able to hit them, well, then that makes some sense. It also knocks their armor down. Again, this is kind of a crack their hull talent more than a disable their ship and loot all their stuff. Now, Bombardment is a pretty strong talent. If you hit, you lower their accuracy 15%. They also do 10% less damage. That applies to their primary damage, not radiation and void damage. And they get a small armor debuff. This is also usable from the further away positions. This is very handy when your foe has a lot more accuracy than you have defense, because in these situations, lowering their accuracy is more valuable than doing the same percentage of increase of your defense. However, this has the big defect of you have to be able to hit them, and because it's an after you hit them talent, it doesn't apply until the end of the turn, so that entire turn you're still getting pegged, when you could have just used evasive maneuvers, boost your own defenses, and not gotten hit immediately. Still, there are situations where I want to use this, where I need to keep their defense. I need to keep them from hitting me after they've already not been hitting me. I want to keep it that way. This can apply. Boarding Assault is a very interesting and powerful talent. If you are at range 3 or 2, you can use Boarding Assault to board the enemy vessel. You can even do this if you're retreating from range 3 to range 4 to try to board them and maybe apply some debuffs. Thus can be helpful, very rare circumstances in defensive play, such as if they twitch surge straight to 3 on you. However, in general, this is just a way to board them before you get all the way up to range 1 to finish boarding them. This allows for a boarding combat, but only the boarding crew get to use their post-boarding talents. So that generally limits you from using your full suite of options, but it depends on what your boarding crew is consisting of. Elusive Barrage is a newer talent, and it's a very powerful one. This works the same way as Bombardment. They have to hit them first, and thus applies the end of the turn, but decrease their accuracy by 10% instead of 15, so it's a bit weaker. Why would I choose this? It also has triple the cooldown. Why would I choose this? Well, minus 15 range change for 3 turns keeps them from escaping. It's kind of the defensive counterpart to targeting lock. Instead of lowering their defense, which I've already hit them, why do I need their defense lowered? Lowers their accuracy. The escape, instead of lowering their escape, lowers their range change, which is used for escape, but also other things, but not by quite as much. Elusive Barrage is great when your foe has -1 hostility or better, meaning they're not going to be firing on you in the first turn. Start with Elusive Barrage. They're not going to fire on you the first turn, so you don't have to worry about being hit that first volley. But when they do start firing, they're going to have to face this minus 10% accuracy and then pop your evasive maneuvers. They'll have to deal with 25% boost from you and a 10% debuff on them. And they weren't able to escape that first turn like they were planning on because they didn't have any reason to fight you. They're going to retreat. They have minus 15 range change, so that became really hard to do. I really like opening with this talent against friendly and neutral targets. All right, Meteor Defense. This is almost unique to the Gunner, and this is a great reason to have a Gunner. It has a very short cooldown. Meteor Storms are painful. They happen in orbits of some systems. They are rumors. If you can't avoid them or they surprise you, having 1 stack of this talent basically reduces the damage to nothing by the time you encounter Meteor Storms. I don't believe Meteor Storms spawn really early in the game. Supremacy of Firepower. Get rid of a risk card in patrolling. Great way to keep your reputation up by getting rid of nasty patrolling encounters. Disarming Sabotage. I don't use this one a ton. Disables their best enemy weapon. I'm not sure what the criteria are for best. Is it the least damaged? Is it the highest level? Is it the one closest to the letter A in the alphabet? I don't know. But it does cause enough damage to keep it very much destroyed, as things that take over 60% damage are out. This is a little overkill, in fact. If anyone figures out how to use this talent, they should share, because maybe it's really powerful and we just haven't been using it right. Orbital Guard, same as Supremacy of Firepower, but for salvaging. If you're doing salvaging, go for it. It does have double the cooldown, but generally not at salvaging orbitals quite as often as you might be patrolling. Lightning Lock is a talent that is specific to small craft, so I won't go into this. However, you will see the foes using it occasionally, even before your foes have small craft. This still matters, as they might be a little more accurate, so you need to be careful with that. Let's move on to Twitchy Trigger. This is for blockading, same as the Supremacy of Firepower talent, but for blockading. Good if you're being a pirate. Enough said. Scatter Shot is actually pretty strong. If any of your ship weapons hit, you lower their armor some, you lower their range change by 25, which is a ton, and escape by 10. So this is kind of a stronger, more aggressive version of Elusive Barrage or Targeting Lock. One disadvantage is it can't be used by range 3, but you're not generally wanting to use it from range 3 anyway. At least I'm not. But it's a pretty good way to keep them from escaping. It's also good on neutral targets. Prowling the Void, a way to get some reputation bonuses if you're salvaging at an orbital. I haven't used this talent a lot, so I don't have a lot to say about it. Close-in Defenses is specific to small craft, so I'm not going to go into it. Firing Orders. Now, this is an interesting talent, and it's a great threat to see when your enemy uses it. It increases your accuracy by 35%, which is a massive amount. If you're not able to hit your foe and you need to apply something like bombardment or really anything, that accuracy bonus can make a huge difference. 35% damage applies not to your void and radiation damage, which is too bad, but does apply to your standard damage. So you apply firing orders when you can't hit something and you're using a gravity blaster. Most weapons, it's going to do some pretty substantial damage. Torpedoes, you won't see a big difference, but in other weapons, you'll see massive damage improvement. This is really dangerous talent to see your foe use because it can often counter an evasive maneuvers use. And if they lead with this talent, that's really ugly because you don't generally have a chance to stack up your defenses and cripple them, then their ship. And this can lead to maybe I need to find another way to reduce damage other than just dodging because I might not be able to dodge.